There is a particular kind of fear that comes not from a bang, but from a silence. In the late 1990s, across the verdant, coffee-rich heartland of Colombia, that silence began to grow. It was the silence of a missing child. Then another, and then another. This was not the famous violence of drug cartels. This was something quieter, more intimate, and, in its own way, more terrifying. A predator was moving through the poorest neighborhoods, the bus stations, the open-air markets. His targets were boys, the forgotten, the impoverished, the ones who shined shoes or sold gum for a few pesos. They vanished without a trace, and their disappearances were often met with a resigned shrug by an overburdened system. But as the numbers grew from a trickle to a flood, that resignation curdled into a national dread. An entire country was being haunted by a ghost it could not see. The breakthrough was as brutal as it was random. In the town of Geneva, a man attacked a young man and was caught fleeing the scene. He was unassuming. Glasses, a quiet voice, a slight limp. He gave a fake name, but his fingerprints told the true story. They matched a single print from a nightmare scene investigators were calling the House of Horrors. The man in custody was Luis Garavito. And then, something extraordinary happened. He started to talk, calmly, methodically, almost politely. He said he wanted to cooperate, to clear his conscience. He offered to take the authorities to the boys. What followed was a grim pilgrimage across the Colombian countryside. Garavito, accompanied by a stunned entourage of police and forensics experts, would stop at a nondescript field, a remote ravine, a patch of dirt by a riverbank. He would point, almost casually. And there, just beneath the surface, they would find the small skeletal remains of a child. And then another. And another. The earth itself began to weep bones. The scale was biblical. The numbers became meaningless in their horror: 50, 100, 140 confirmed victims. He confessed to it all with the detached precision of an accountant reviewing a ledger. His method was a masterpiece of evil simplicity. He didn't snatch children. He lured them. He was the friendly stranger, the harmless beggar, the monk offering a meal, a job, a few coins. He built trust with a smile. And then he would lead them away from the world to an isolated place where that smile would vanish, revealing the monster beneath. The violence was not a means to an end. It was the entire point. A compulsive, sadistic ritual of torture. The world demanded to know how a man could become such a beast. The answer lay in a childhood of almost unimaginable brutality. He was savagely beaten by his father. He was repeatedly sexually assaulted by a neighbor. His life was a textbook on how to create a monster. The violence done to him was the seed from which his own industrial-scale evil grew. His day in court should have been an ending. Faced with the mountain of evidence, the hundreds of graves he himself had led them to, he pleaded guilty. And in a decision that stunned the world, he was sentenced to just 40 years in prison. The legal rationale was a cold calculus, a deal for information, a maximum sentence per victim. It felt like a grotesque injustice, but the judge included one final, crucial line. Parole would require a psychological evaluation, and every time that evaluation is done, the result is the same. Luis Garavito remains a predator, incurable, unrepentant, a high-risk, violent beast deemed utterly unfit for society. So the man known as La Bestia remains in his cell. An old man now, his horrors decades in the past, but in the quiet towns of the coffee axis, the silence he left behind still echoes. The story of Luis Garavito is not just the story of a killer. It is the story of a deep national scar. It is a story about the ghosts of hundreds of children who, thanks to the most unlikely of guides, were finally brought home from the darkness and laid to rest.